All right, worksheet day 33 for business math, business finance, how to read and analyze and interpret financial reports. So continuing on, again, we'll only have a couple kinds of questions because these tables take up a lot of space, and Alex doesn't like me having too many things in one thing. So if I slide down to the question here, it says, based on the information contained in the balance sheet for universal electronic repair, calculate the equipment as a percent of the total assets, buildings as a percent of total assets, accounts payable as a percent of total assets, and owner's equity as a percent of total liabilities and owner's equity. So these first two say that we're going to calculate them as a percent of the total assets. Notice there's 100% next to that. That means our base number, the one we're going to be dividing by when we do the percent, is that 148,000. So they've already done like cash, but if I would do the cash again, if you would take your calculator and do 23,680 and divide it by that 148,000, you see that you get 0.16, 16%. Same thing if you did the 14,800 and you divided it by the 148,000, which is your total assets. You get 0.1, which is 10%. So to do the equipment, we're going to take the 35,520 and divide it by our total assets, our 148,000. Again, that says an 8. So 35,520 divided by 148,000, we get 0.24, which times 100 means we get 24%. If we're going to calculate the buildings, we're going to take the 60,680 and divide it by our 148,000. So 60,680 divided by 148,123,000, I get 0.41, which times 100 to change it to a percent gives me 41%. Now we want to calculate the accounts payable as a percent of the total liabilities and owner's equity, and the owner's equity as a percent of the total liabilities and owner's equity. So total liabilities and owner's equity is down here. Again, notice there's 100% next to it. So if I'm doing my accounts payable, I'm going to take the 10,360 divided by that 148,000. I don't want to write an 8 today, evidently. So 10,360 divided by 148,000 gives me 0.07, which then times 100, moves my decimal 2 places, is just 7%. If I do my owner's equity, I got to do a little erasing because I scribbled too high. I'm going to take my 103,600 and divide it by my 148,000. So 103,600 divided by 148,123,000, I get 0.7. Keep in mind that when you times that by 100, 0.7 is 70%. So 70%. So number 2, again, based on the information contained in the balance sheet for Barney and Barney Home Remodeling, calculate the buildings as a percent of the total assets and the land as a percent of the total assets. Here's my total assets. That means I'm dividing by the 213,000. They did the first 3 items in the table for you. They want you to do the building and the land. So for my building, 191,590 divided by my total assets, 213,000. I get 0.43, which then is 43%. Then I'm going to do the land. The land is $25,560 divided by my total assets, $213,000. I get 0.12, which is 12%. I'm then going to do the salaries payable and the owner's equity as a percent of the total liabilities and owner's equity. Again, that's still $213,000 because it's a balance sheet. Those two numbers match up. So they've already done the accounts payable. Salaries payable, $23,430 divided by my total liabilities and owner's equity, $213,000, gives me 0.11, which then is 11%. And then they want us to do the owner's equity. The owner's equity, $140,580 divided by the total of the liabilities and owner's equity, $213,000. I get 0.66, so 66%. And number 3 is pretty much going to be the same thing here. If I slide down to number 3, based on the information contained in the balance sheet for Jackson Meadow Pest Control, calculate the cash as a percent of the total assets and equipment as a percent of the total assets. Again, notice there's 100%. We know the $153,000 is our base. So for our cash, we have $26,010. We're going to divide it by the $153,000, which is the total assets. So we get 0.17, so 17%. And then they did the accounts receivable. We're going to do the equipment. For the equipment, we have $29,070. We're again going to divide by the total assets, $153,000. And so we get 0.19, so 19%. Then we're going to calculate the notes payable as a percent of the total liabilities and owner equity, and the owner's equity as a percent of the total of liabilities and owner equity. So again, here's my total liabilities and owner's equity, $153,000. So we're calculating those percents. The notes payable, $26,010. $26,010 divided by $153,000 gives me 0.17, 17%. Notice that our cash and our notes payable were the exact same number. We ended up with the same percent. Hey! Owner's equity, we have $102,510, so $102,510 divided by the total of the liabilities and owner's equity, $153,000. We get 0.67, which would be 67% then. Number 4, complete the income statement for Dallas Youth Wear Incorporated. So we have our revenue, which includes our sales, but then we have sales returns and allowances and sales discounts. So we want to find our net sales first of all. So if this is the total of my sales, I'm going to end up subtracting the returns and the discounts. So I'm going to take my $200,000 total sales, I'm going to subtract off the $13,000 that people return and the $5,000 in discounts. So $182,000 is what I'm going to have for my net sales. The cost of my goods sold was $127,400. So next I want to calculate my gross profit. So I had this in net sales, but I had costs that I had to pay. So again, I'm going to subtract that value from my 182,000. So if I subtract off the 127,400, I now have 54,600, which is my profit. Then I have operating expenses. So I have 24,570 in operating expenses and 10,920 in general and administrative expenses. So I want to find the total of my operating expenses. I'm going to add those two numbers together to find my total expenses. So 24,570 plus 10,920 gives me total expenses of 35,490. At the very end there, they want us to find the net income. To find my net income, I'm going to take my gross profit and I'm going to subtract my expenses. So I'm going to take the 54,600, I'm going to subtract the 35,490, and so my net income, $19,110. Give you a minute to think about that table. So number 5, doing the same kind of thing there. Complete the income statement for goods and fabrics. I had sales of 360,000, but I had sales returns that I have to subtract off, and I had sales discounts that I have to subtract off. So my net sales, 360,000 minus the 10,000 in returns and allowances minus the 7,000 in sales discounts. So my net sales, 343,000. But then I have to pay for the cost of goods sold. So I'm going to subtract off my cost of goods sold in order to find my gross profit. So the 343,000 minus 205,800 gives me 137,200. Next it says we have operating expenses. We have selling expenses and general administrative expenses. We want to find the total of those expenses, so we're going to just add those two numbers together. 75,460 plus 48,020 gives me 123,480. Then I want to find my net income. So if I'm going to find my net income, I'm going to take my gross profit, I'm going to subtract off my operating expenses. So 137,200 minus 123,480 gives me a net income of 13,720. And number 6, we want to complete the income statement for Auto World Stereo Incorporated. They had sales of 54,000, sales returns and allowances of 4,000, sales discounts of 6,000. So I'm going to take my 540,000, subtract off my 4,000 in returns and allowances, subtract off my 6,000 in discounts, and I have 530,000 for my net sales. Then I want to find my gross profit. I know what the cost of my goods sold are, so I'm going to take my net sales of 530,000. I'm going to subtract off the cost of the goods sold, so subtract off my 212,000, and my gross profit is 318,000. Then I have my operating expenses, I have my selling expenses, and my general and administrative expenses. I want to find the total of those operating expenses, so I'm going to total up those two numbers and add those two together. So 127,200 plus 95,400 gives me 222,600. And then last but not least, I want to find my net income. So if I'm going to find my net income, I'm going to take my gross profit, I'm going to subtract off my operating expenses. So 318,000 minus my 222,600 gives me a net income of 95,400. And that is the end of that homework page. And so we are done with homework day 33. Again, homework day 33 is under the business finance, the last slice of your pie chart, how to read, analyze, and interpret financial reports.